let's do this. Time to feed the hungry Linux community. Alright, I got something for them. Oh, by the way, hello viewers. Another beautiful day. Hope your five senses work, health and strength is good or excellent. Alright, what do we got here? We're talking about the Linux kernel 6.14 release with boot for Linux gaming. Says here Linux kernel 6.14 has arrived, bringing a clutch of changes to make your computer run more efficiently and more securely than before. Says here, interestingly, Linux 6.14 is one of the smallest kernel updates in terms of commit. Then it says in parentheses, not lines of code, for sometimes it's also the kernel version that will be included in Ubuntu 25.04 release next month. It says announcing the promotion to stable on the Linux kernel mailing list, LKML. Linus Torvald explained why this release has landed a day later than expected. Yeah, he got some explanation to do, you know. He says here, explanation to do, that is. He says here, it's early Monday morning. Well, early for me. I am not really a morning person, and I did love to have some good excuse for why I didn't do the Linux 6.14 release yesterday on my regular Sunday afternoon release schedule, he writes. Yeah, and that means I would have done it too, you know, it would have been finished already. But anyway, he said here, I did like to say that some important last minute thing came up and delayed things, but no, it's just pure incompetence. He said, I think we all relate to that, right? Question mark. Says anyway, for a breeze through the notable highlights, this kernel uplifts provides keep scrolling. Alright, Linux 6.14 new features subtopic. Says here, when I recap kernel release, I tend to gloss basic bring up for new CPUs and GPUs, which are as yet unreleased or in very early stages of development. It's not that such work isn't important, more that it's a given and doesn't impact us as Linux desktop users. Says here, take it as read that the next generation of Intel and AMD CPUs and GPUs continues to receive basic bits plumbed in and or fine-tuned as part of their journey to Linux, to full Linux support. By the time they hit the market, they will work as expected. Then I got a picture here that says faster gaming. Alright. Says here, for many, the most impactful feature of Linux kernel 6.14 is the addition of a new NT synchronization primitive driver, NT, then in parentheses it says NT sync, one word. Says here, aimed at improving the performance of Windows games on Linux running through Wine and related tech stacks, right? Then it says it provides Windows NT style looking primitive in a new kernel interface, supplanting Wine built-in current inter-process communications. That's a big word, you know. Says your approach, which can for many games on certain hardware be slower and thus impact gaming performance. Says what is most impressive about the driver is the performance boost. It reportedly delivers. Many games saw improved frame rates of 150% per the driver patch. Arthur Elizabeth Figueroa says here, performance boost. It's not just Linux gamers benefiting from the better performance, as Linux 6.14 include a crop of changes delivering speed buffs to various areas. Says here, among which is a new FS notify event, and it says FS pre and then access. It says here, this allow the kernel to notify user space before file content or access, then wait for a reply before proceeding, effectively enabling on-demand files content loading from slow storage. Then it says here, that change could help bolster performance for tasks and apps that really on accessing sizable data assets stored remotely. It says here, then it says subtopic again, GPU workload and protection. Then it says Linux 6.4, then it says in all blue here, Linux 6.14 includes a crop of changes, bringing speed buffs to key areas. It says here, through C groups was also merged. This prevents important GPU tasks from being terminated by properly accounting GPU and CPU memory to the correct group. This enables multiple GPU workloads to run concurrently without any undue snags. Support for uncached buffer I/O is another key Linux 6.14 feature that may add some pep to workloads by resolving issues where fast storage device can quickly fill available RAM with unnecessary cache data. Now, keep going here. It says here, to do this, it allows apps to read/write data while automatically dropping the page from the page cache after operation complete, then dash net result faster response. It says changes to the resource control, and then in parentheses it's RES control, one word, so it says RESCTRL. Okay, it says here code extends memory bandwidth monitoring tools by allowing total memory bandwidth monitoring to accommodate system which support only total but not local memory bandwidth monitoring. Now, it says here, and a scheduler fix reduces the cost of the, that's SCHED_move_task function when the auto group feature is enabled, resulting in over a 50% performance improvement for workload frequently calling the function. It says here, rounding out the performance side, I/O and then URING support is available to fuse file system operations. It says here, reducing our friction between kernel and user space. Apps making heavy use of fuse file system, then in parentheses it says, like cloud storage, mounts, or containers, close parentheses, says should see a noticeable uptick in performance. Okay, another subtopic, Intel GPU buffs. It says the Intel graphics driver update for Linux 6.14 offer plenty of improvements desktop Linux users stands to benefit from. Then it has a little graphics card on the side here. It says graphics driver. It says here there are fixes and buffs to address power issues when pairing Intel Arc Alchemist DG2 graphics card with various Intel CPU generation, including Adler Lake, Comet Lake, and KB Lake. That's KABY. Says here mainly around power state management and reduce idle power consumption. Says here, and Linux 6.14 adds ultra high bit rates. And then in parentheses it says UHBR. That's the acronym. It says here modes for display ports over Thunderbolt and Panther Lake platforms, paired with XC3 integrated graphics. But the first Panther Lake chip aren't due for release until 2026. And it says here it's not only the latest GPU befitting as some minor housekeeping for integrated graphics on old Intel Haswell era CPUs got merged in this release that will keep old machines ticking over nicely. Yeah, Linux to the rescue. But anyway, another subtopic here. It says here new AMD NPU drivers. It says Linux 6.14 features a new AMD XDNA driver for AMD NPU neural. Then in parentheses it says neural processing unit. Okay, that is NPUs. It says here integrated into new and upcoming AMD chips. It says here NPUs are becoming a common co-companion in desktop and laptop chips to power and aid on device machines learning tasks and apps like LLM, etc. And mainline kernel support is becoming an increasingly important focus for it. says here Linux 6.14 takes a leap forward in that era. Alright, another subtopic. Ready for this one? AMD power saving. Says here several changes to the AMD P-State driver are in Linux kernel 6.14, but it's the decision to default to differing energy performance policy. That's EPP. It says here, close parentheses, that's the acronym. It says here, setting on AMD Ryzen's EPYC processor that most users will benefit from. The former is now set to balance performance. Then it says here that the result, sizable energy savings. Then in all blue on the right, it says AMD P-State driver tweaks reduced power consumption on Ryzen laptops. Says here, defaulting to a balanced profile on Ryzen use 50% fewer watts when playing a 1080p YouTube video. Then in parentheses it says, with HW acceleration on, close parentheses, at 7 watts versus 14 watts respectively. Then in parentheses again it says, thanks to a lower CPU frequency, close parentheses, plus a 20 degrees Celsius lower temp and reduced fan noise. Those stats will vary based on task and device, but for users of laptops with AMD Ryzen processors, the net benefit is worth the switch. Most Linux distribution, in parentheses again, including Ubuntu, close parentheses, ships with power mode tools that lets you bump to performance mode when you need it. Okay, now another subtopic, security. Then it says we, and then it says hopefully is in parentheses, all know executing scripts has potential security risk, and that the kernel contain built-in mechanism to help mitigate. To bolster those Linux 6.14, Linux 6.14 ensures the same security check. Then in parentheses it says AT underscore EXE CVE underscore check, close parentheses again. Then it says applies to whether scripts are executed directly. And then in parentheses again it's like ./script.sh parentheses or indirect, and then another parentheses again sh space script dot sh parentheses. It says here, while 2 new security bits aid in this, one restricts file execution permission, the other preventing interpreters from running interactive code not stored in executable files. Yeah. Then it says here another subtopic, ARMS and RISC V. And then it says Linux 6.14 kernel now allows VirtualBox guest drivers to be built for ARM64 Linux VMs. Previously, it's only supported building them for Intel-based system. This change will certainly help anyone running ARM64 Linux VMs on ARM64 hosts such as Apple Silicon. It says here their initial work to support the Blaze, that's B-L-A-I-Z-E, and then it says BLZ P1600 ALSOC family, which has custom GSP graph streaming processor. That's the acronym for GSP. It says here core offering up to 16 TOPS and a pair of Cortex A53 cores able to run an OS. It's available as a PCIe accelerator board or run standalone. It says here on the RISC V side, Linux 6.15 adds burgeoning support for the SpaceMint K1. This 64-bit RISC V chip with 8 RVA22 compatible CPU cores may sound familiar, as it's the one used in Ubuntu Power RISC V tablet from Deep Computing. Then it says while mainline Linux 6.14 support for the SpaceMint K1 series isn't feature complete, It's a fair way. There's as of this release, and will allow other developers to join in to help build out, expand, and fine-tune performance on the hardware. Yeah, another subtopic: hardware and the device support. Says here on Microsoft push to get PC makers to physical Copilot. Copilot is in quotes. Says here keys to device means the Linux kernel needs to accommodate it, which Linux 6.14 dually does. And it says here a mapping for the Microsoft Copilot keyboard keys has been added. And then in parentheses it says KEY_F23. Then it says it will be up to Linux distribution makers and or users to choose what happened when the Copilot keys is pressed under Linux, with few distros currently integrating or shipping any AI assistant type features. The choice given by an extra key are myriads. It says here the XPad driver in Linux 6.14 now support unofficial Xbox 360 wireless receivers clones. Since Microsoft no longer manufacture official versions, users with OG controllers can continue to use them with replacement receivers, cutting down on e-waste. Says here, sticking with Xbox controllers, Linux kernel 6.14 adds support for both the Nacon Evol Space Xbox One controller and the Nacon Pro Compact. Anyone with either of those laying around to use with their Xbox One/S controllers can now use them for gaming on Linux. Yeah, you Linux gamers are spoiled. Anyway, says here other devices supported are improved in this new kernel release. Ready? And it has like a Mega Drive controller in the display here. It says here Steel Series Artis 9 wireless gaming headset. It says Nintendo Switch 6-button Sega controller, Routing 2 analog keyboard, Positivo C6400 headset mic now works, IdeaPad hotkey mute LED support, ThinkPad phone link hotkey support, Lenovo Go S microphone now works, RTL88 12AU Wi-Fi adapter, USB 3 support, and then in parentheses the acronym is RTW88, and then LED blinking support for music Wi-Fi devices. Then in parentheses again is RTW88. Says here plenty more besides that, such as support for more Intel Touch equipment, a slate of Bluetooth and audio chips, and all sorts of new networking dongles, devices, and doohickeys. Says here going beyond, it says every Linux kernel release is packed to the hilt with change. So in addition to what I spotlighted above, there are scores of other tweaks and tune-ups, including, ready? Here go the tune-ups. It says here lazy preemption support for on PowerPC. AMG energy use counters now support in perf events. PID FDFS file system can now create file handles, and NFS servers now support NFS 4.2 plus attribute delegation. Then it says 2 new BPF, the Berkeley Pack filter kernel function. NFS Localio lets client performs direct I/O when on the same host as servers. Kernel modules signs using SA512 rather than SA1. Further Rust expansion, including new bindings, misschedulers, and load balancers improvements. Yeah, you guys are good. But anyway, it says here LWN merge reports Then in parentheses it says part 1 and 2. I will leave those links in the description box. It says provides a good run through of the changes along with the links to deep dive articles, or you can browse through the various commit available on the Linux Git. Through that may take a while even for a low commit release such as this. Then another subtopic, get Linux kernel 6.14. Ready? It says here Linux kernel 6.14 is free, open source software. You can download the source code as of today, or wait for your distribution maintainers to package it up and make it available to you. Not all will. It says here on Ubuntu, Linux 6.14 is included out of the box in Ubuntu 25.4 and will be pack ported to users of Ubuntu 24.4 LTS later this year as a part of the Ubuntu 24.4.3 HWE update. It says there are other ways to install new Linux kernels on Ubuntu, like downloading and compiling Canonical own mainline kernel DEBS and package in an unofficial PPA. Now those builds aren't advised for most since they have no support, aren't tested, and so on. Use at your own risk. And it says affiliate link, and that's the end of the article. So we have two comments. It says here, who is this? Acer said this, and again, nothing new to Nvidia. he got a sad smiley face on it. And then Pat said this, on the RISC V side, Linux 6.15 adds he says burgeoning support for the Space Mint K1. Did you mean 6.14 question mark? Anyway, so that should do it. That should hold you you Linux nerds, you Linux kernel experts. That should hold you for now until the next one. So yeah, you know, if they would have released this yesterday, I would have jumped all over it, but it didn't come out. And then I went on a Gaming on Linux. He did a little quick summary of it, but I'm like, nah, that's not enough. Yeah, I need the exact article to go through it, so just to show you what you're getting. So this is it right here. I had to search for it. You know, I was on social media looking around for it, couldn't find it. So I'm like, okay, you know what? Let me type it in the Google way, see if I can come up with it. And I found it. So yeah, that should hold you guys though. And a lot of gaming support on this one, and for us controllers, and yeah, you guys Xbox 360 controllers. Oh yeah, Linux will make those make it for good use. You know, so yeah, I guess Linux is not leaving no controllers behind. You know, so yeah, no controllers behind them. Nice little update too. So I mean, they got controllers from a Sega Mega Drive controller that I'm looking at here. And you got the Steel Series Arctic 9, Nintendo Switch 6 buttons, Sega controllers, Wooting 2-He analog keyboard, Positivo C6400, IdeaPad hotkey mute LED support, ThinkPad phone link hotkey, Lenovo Go S, and then this is the RTL8812AU, and then the LED blinking. Yeah, but yeah, that should do it. So yeah, but this is also packed with two lazy preemption support on Power PCs. AMD energy use counters now support in perf events. PID FDFS file system can now create file handles. NFS servers now support NFS 4.2 plus attribute delegation. 2 new BPF Berkeley packet filters, kernel functions. NFS Localio lets client perform direct I/O when on the same host as servers. And then kernel modules are signed using what's a SHA 512 rather than SHA-1, and further Rust expansion, including new bindings, MISC scheduler, and load balancer improvement. Yeah, that should hold you guys. So yeah, I will leave all the links in the description box with this article though, and take it from there. So yeah, you Linux kernel experts, indulge yourself and have fun. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Nice talking to you people again. Crystal, Star Wars, Star Trek, Planet, Borg, Tarsec. I'll go. Peace.